So I'm Ben Rouleau. I'm a senior in civil engineering here at the University of Vermont, and this is my honors thesis work. This is some results from that. I've been working with the Transportation Research Center for about 3 years now, and this really spawned my idea to look at Vermont as a whole and who walks and who doesn't walk and who bikes and who doesn't across the whole state. A lot of these studies in the past have been looking at specific cities, looking at only Montreal or only Boston or New York or San Diego. But this is sort of one of the first studies to actually look at some of the factors that are influencing who walks and bikes across this whole area, across the whole state. The standard assumption is that nobody's walking and biking where there aren't any destinations, because once you get outside the city, where do you go? Where could you go if you're out in rural Vermont and you're on a farm? But what we're actually finding from this is that there are a lot of people outside of just the cities who are walking and biking, especially for recreation. And so this looked at a bunch of different factors that could be influencing people. We broke it up into 3 models. First, there's the walking model. And then there's 2 biking models. We did decide to break that out because children tend to bicycle a lot more than adults. There's actually, it's almost 5 times the rates of adults. So we decided to break that out. And actually the children model, which has the fewest variables in it, was actually the most powerful in terms of predicting who would who would bike and who wouldn't. So we took into account a lot of the demographic factors, age, gender, and whether or not they had someone else in their household who would bike, which was a really powerful variable. We also took into account what season they were interviewed in, summer or winter, and that also made a big difference, which is sort of one of those specific things to Vermont. But we also looked at characterizing what the area around their house looked like. Are they in the middle of nowhere, or are they in the middle of downtown Burlington, where you've got a lot of businesses and a lot of people and a lot of streets? And so some of our results, and we found that age, definitely younger people tend to be more active in general, but also walking and biking. Males tend to bike more than females. Winter is a factor both in biking, but also in walking. Definitely stronger in biking, which sort of brings us to this idea that walking is more of a conscious choice, bicycling is more of a conscious choice, and walking's sometimes done out of necessity. Generally more active people tended to walk or bike more, and that was measured both by how many trips they take on an average day, and also whether they had walked or biked. And we were looking at the opposite of whatever we were analyzing at that point. Some of the interesting results, the household biked variable is what we called it. If someone else in the household had biked, that was extremely powerful. So I think that gets to the idea of making sure that at least someone in the household is biking, and that can sort of influence the whole household and really get people to develop an environment that's friendly to encouraging these modes. Also, another sort of weird result that we're getting is that for Vermont, the road miles, so the miles of roadway within a 1 kilometer radius of a person's house, is actually negatively correlated with walking or biking, which is, it makes you think that, if you have more roads around your house, then you're going to be able to get more places, you have more choice and more variety. But we're thinking that it might have to do with some of the safety and risk aspects, that maybe just these roads are too busy and that you don't want to bike in a really busy area. But also that was another big finding, is finding that children tend to bike more in rural areas, while adults tend to bike more in urban areas, which, that sort of makes sense once you think about it. But it's definitely, we shouldn't just be looking only at cities. We should definitely be looking at the whole scope of, wherever you're looking at when you're analyzing walking and biking. So I think that's one of the big takeaways from this. It's definitely a very broad, sort of 10,000 foot view of things. and it leaves a lot of research to be done at smaller scales, and also looking at walking and biking for recreation separately from walking and biking for commuting or going to the store. We want to make sure that these are encouraged because it's helping fight global warming. If you don't have to drive, then great, but it's also helping to fight obesity. Just getting people active, and that's going to allow people to be happier and healthier.